The contact tipped me off to the story. It kind of seemed just too bizarre to be true, obviously something I needed to follow up. Well, I mean, here was a story where we were being told that there was a South African woman from the South Coast in KZN who was sitting in a Brazilian prison for on charges of being a drug mule.
Well, we were devastated because the thing is now, Tessa has never been a person that would do anything like that.
The reason she was there and the person who had sent her happened to be a very high-ranking municipal worker on the KZN South Coast. But over and above that, the query that I was given was, we think that she is the wife of the then intelligence boss in South Africa. So, I mean, it had all the elements of, it almost was, fiction. You couldn't imagine it was true, and you've also got the police and crime intelligence confirming that this is an issue.
Check your seatbelt is securely fastened.
The parents of Tessa Beetge, Mari and Swanee Swanepoel, live in the quiet seaside village of Margate, a popular holiday destination on South Africa's east coast. Their lives were turned upside down when they found out their 33-year-old daughter had been arrested in Brazil for smuggling drugs. They were convinced she had been framed, but they needed help to expose her case.
We didn't get any results from the police. So we went to the media.
We drove down to Margate and met with the Swanepoels, Mari and her husband, Swanee as he was known.
What intrigued Megan Power most about this story was that the Swanepoels believed their daughter had been conned by very influential people into smuggling drugs.
Here was a very ordinary mother, a very concerned mother, not a high-profile personality. Her and her husband lived a very quiet life on the South Coast, but a desperate mother who could not believe that this had happened to her daughter and who also feels she had been lied to.
Tessa stayed with Mari and myself in Margate. She lived with us in the house after her divorce.
I was a single mother, just divorced, working temporary here, working temporary there.
She was only earning a little bit of money. We helped Tessa with the children as well. So our finances and Tessa's finances, we just managed to make ends meet.
You're talking about a very ordinary South African family here, without resources, without money to go to top lawyers, certainly don't have money for private investigators, and also no resources to really put pressure on the police.
While still married, she befriended her neighbour, Cheryl Cwele. Cwele was the director for health for the South Coast municipality at the time, a woman with power and great influence.
My children were playing with her children, like neighbours. And I actually thought that at that time she was a friend.
Not only was Cheryl Cwele a high-ranking municipal official with prominent links to government, she was also the wife of South Africa's then State Intelligence Minister.
I hadn't spoken to her for years, and then all of a sudden I got a message from her if I wanted to go overseas for a job opportunity. She knew that I was looking for a permanent position. What she explained was a company was, it was a large company that had now taken over a small company. And the small company would have had to close down, and I would have had to reconcile the books and things.
She actually came to us and said to us that she's been offered a full-time job, and she would like us to go with her to the interview, just so that we know what type of, work she's doing and if she's doing the right thing.
My mom, my dad,
So my wife and myself, we said, no, we'll go with her to this job interview.
The story she said that Cheryl Kwele had given was that she was sending her daughter on an admin post to London. She even met with Cheryl Kwele at the municipal offices to ensure that her daughter was going to be safe and this was a legitimate job.
They themselves wanted to know why am I going out of the country?
She was telling us how wonderful the work was and that she was wanting somebody to take her place because she's done so much traveling and she's tired of traveling and she wants somebody to do the traveling now for her.
She just blatantly said, well, everything it's okay. You don't have to worry about anything. She made it sound like it was roses.
She tells Tessa, when you go to London, don't forget, you've got to bring me a bottle of that Chanel. And this is how she spoke the whole time. So she threw us off, my wife and myself. We thought, well, this is really something great.
Once Tessa accepted the job offer, Cheryl Kwele began making arrangements for the trip abroad. Tessa was told she would only be gone for 2 weeks and she would be paid 12,000 rand for the work.
By the time we got to speak to and meet the Swanepools, Tessa had already been in prison for nearly a year. So she felt completely and utterly betrayed and wanted to get to the bottom of it. Here was a mother who certainly wasn't taking this lying down. She was accepting that her daughter was in prison and that was her fate, but she certainly wasn't accepting that she was in this alone and she wanted justice to be done.
Megan Power spent hours with the Swanepools, piecing together how their daughter came to be incarcerated in a jail thousands of kilometers from home. She was struck in particular by how much Mari was willing to do to clear her daughter's name.
He was saying, this is what's happened. But when we delved further and said, okay, well, where's the proof of this? She was able to provide it. She literally handed us a dossier. We were sitting with over 30 text messages between Cheryl and Tessa. We were sitting with emails between Cheryl, some from her official work email address from the municipality, to Tessa's Hotmail account.
And she called me up and she said to me, Tess, you're going to be flying out to Johannesburg. You're going to my brother, Frank. But you need to stop off at my work so that I can give you money and pick up her lucky coat.
Cheryl had given this coat to Tessa, and in one of the SMSs had said, use my lucky coat, it will protect you.
I actually thought it was a little bit more of a sentimental value. That's why she didn't want me to leave it, So wherever I went, I was wearing it.
Other SMSs said things like, don't talk to anyone, if people ask too many questions, don't speak. They painted a picture of a trip that certainly wasn't an admin jaunt to London.
Tessa flew from Durban to Johannesburg on a one-way ticket. At Johannesburg Airport, she was picked up by a man Cheryl had referred to as her brother, Frank. According to Cheryl, Frank would be organizing the travel documents for London, but Tessa sensed something odd about him.
He wasn't recruiting and then letting us go to wherever, like London or wherever we had to go. I realized that Frank couldn't have actually been her brother because, his accent is a little bit different. He was well dressed, he looked educated and smart. You know, he looked like a businessman. That's the part that actually made me believe that it was the real thing.
Frank Nabalisa, a 46-year-old Nigerian national, was living in South Africa. He had close ties with Cheryl Twele.
They left me the first night. They dropped me off at this really terrible, it was a brothel place, because you could hear the music, the smell of the beer and the alcohol, and, you know, people were making noise and party life. First thing in the morning, I just wanted to get out of there. She had said that I would be away for 2 weeks. I'd already been in Joburg for a week, and I was like impatient to get back to my kids.
Tessa contacted us and said to us they can't get a visa for her, but they're sending her to Panama City.
1 or 2 days before I left, Frank went on and said, "You're going to be going to a place called Bogota." And I said to him, "I'm supposed to be going to London." So he said, "No, the position in London's been taken." But I think maybe if he had said Colombia, I think somebody might have put 2 and 2 together and tried to avoid me from leaving.
With travel plans changed, Tessa finally set off. She left Johannesburg, South Africa, and landed in Lima, Peru, en route to Colombia. But once she got there, things were not what she expected.
I was tired, I was hungry, I was fuming because I couldn't get in touch with Cheryl, couldn't get in touch with my mother, and I had to wait until the morning. And the address that Frank did give me on a little piece of paper, I asked the taxi driver, you know, take me to that address, and he was driving around and driving around and driving around in some really scummy area. And he just kept on saying to me, this place doesn't exist. The taxi driver said to me, in the morning, when I'm not so tired and once I've had a good night's rest, it would be advisable for me to then try and locate Frank and them to find out what's going on. The next morning, I phoned directly to Cheryl, I think it was her cell phone or to her work line. And I said, I'm at this place. The address that Frank gave me doesn't exist. The taxi guy was driving around for hours. And I'm stuck. And these people don't speak English. And 2 guys came to come and fetch me, took me from that guest place or hotel or whatever, and took me through to another place.
Cheryl phoned us up and said that Tessa's landed in New York City, very tired and confused. Here's a phone number, you must phone her. So we got in the car, went to a ticky box and phoned from a ticky box. Got hold of Tessie, and I spoke to Tessa, and I said to her, Tess, where are you now?
Where are you? I can't hear you. Where are you? I can't hear you. I can just hear slightly there. It's very, very bad.
We didn't know what was actually happening, because the thing is, first of all, she was supposed to go to London. Then when Tessa phoned over there, she was supposed to go to Panama City. And then when Cheryl phones over there and says over there she's landed in New York, and find out that she didn't even land in New York, she lands in Bogota. So now we were really worried, we were wondering what was actually happening.
Tessa spent a week in the Colombian capital. The work that she was recruited to do never seemed to materialize.
I was asking the guy, you know, which taxi is going to take me to the work that I'm supposed to. He said, no, don't worry, you relax. Everything will be okay. Somebody will come and see you tomorrow. And tomorrow came, the guy left me money, but they didn't take me to any work. And the days went, the same thing.
Tessa herself getting quite concerned that she didn't know when her due date was going to be. The SMSs and the emails show clear evidence that Tessa wanted to come home. She wanted whatever this job was or whatever she was doing to be over and to return back to her family. And that was being delayed with very little communication in terms of the date of return. And there was a level of frustration, and that informed a lot of the emails back and forth.
The arrangement was with Cheryl that I would be home within 2 weeks. I mean, it wouldn't delay it because I needed to get home to be with my children. Eventually, when I spoke to Frank and when he did eventually decide on phoning me back or whatever, when am I going home? When am I going home? And I mean, it was like, if I phoned him on a Monday, he'd say, no, he'll phone me back. Come Tuesday, he didn't phone. Wednesday, he would phone. Don't worry, your flight will be leaving. And then the next day would follow to the next day.
The emails were going back and forth because Tessa was concerned that her mother was asking questions and kept saying to Cheryl, please placate her about where I am and when I'm going to be back.
Cheryl would phone us up and say, well, everything is fine. We're just trying to get air flight for her back again. And we'll let you know exactly what's happening. And this carried on day after day.
The SMSs are parts of conversations. The emails are also parts, and you don't know what has been said on actual telephone calls. What it showed is a clear link between the two women. What it also suggested is whatever they were doing, the two of them were party to that. The two of them seemed to be in sync in terms of what was being done.
A week after landing in Bogota, Tessa finally received word that she would be going home, but there would be another stopover in Lima on her return.
When eventually I landed at Peru, Lima, they gave me another address of which hotel I was to stay at. It was like, what is happening? This work that I'm supposed to be doing, it's not materializing. Every time you question Frank or you question Cheryl, they come up with this excuse of flights have been cancelled and they can only get another flight on such and such a day.
I mean, you could see who was in charge of the decision-making. Tessa was sitting there waiting for word. When am I coming home? When will I hear more information? So-and-so's not answering a phone call. Always being reassured by Cheryl on the other end. Sit tight, don't say too many things, we'll get back to you, etc., etc. So the clear indication was that she was pulling the strings and she was in charge.
Eventually, the night before I left, Frank phoned early in the afternoon. He said to me, pack your bags, be ready, make sure that you get a good night's rest. You're gonna fly. So, all excited, happy, I know I'm going home. I go to bed early. It was must have been about 10 o'clock in that evening. He phones me up and he says, go downstairs, the taxi guy is waiting for you. You need to change hotels. I'm like, for what? I'm leaving in the morning. What hurdle is it now that's stopping me? When I got to that hotel, we were like in the parking area, and this guy kept on saying to me, he wants the luggage, and I'm like, no, I want my luggage, it's my luggage. I didn't want to leave my bag, and it's like, okay, if you say that, it's not going to be a problem, And that was like just plain straight stupidity.
After spending 2 weeks in South America, Tessa was finally heading home. She was booked to fly back to South Africa from Lima, Peru, but she would have to make one last stop before returning home.
I was going to be flying to Sao Paulo and then via Sao Paulo back to South Africa. I got to the airport, took my bag, took my luggage out. I didn't really notice the exchange in weight because, you know, when you're pulling the bag with the wheels, it doesn't really give you the weight. I went straight up to the immigration and I didn't have anything to hide, so I went straight up to the guy and I said to him, I'm looking for SAA desk. Can you help me? He had a look at my passport. He assisted me to the desk and off I went. A little while later, the same guy came to me and said, can you accompany us to the room? There was a lady that was with us. She'd done a search and there was nothing in my hand luggage, and I was checked. The lady said, no, I'm okay, I can leave. I went back to the SAA desk and I was asking the assistant there if she can process my ticket. She said, yes, I must just wait. There's a little bit of a problem with the computer. So I sat and I waited, and these guys called me back again. I just saw these people around my luggage, and I'm like, what is going on? They asked me, is this your luggage? I said, yes, it's my luggage. Then they went on and they opened it. But as soon as they lifted it, they moved a garment of my clothing. And I noticed that there was a black bag inside there.
No, that's not mine. That's not mine. I didn't put it in there. I don't know how it got there, but that's not mine. I didn't put it there.
The more I'm trying to say to them, no, that's not mine, they didn't want to know anything. They were just telling me, no, stand back, stand back. That's when they were taking little knives out and making holes in everything and poking holes, and they said, do you know what this is? I said, no, I don't know what this is. You know, can you tell me what it is?
10 kilograms of cocaine wrapped in black bags were found in Beetge's luggage. She was arrested still wearing the lucky coat given to her by Cheryl Twele.
When Tessa phoned us to say that she's been arrested, we devastated because we didn't know what was wrong. So we get hold of Cheryl to find out what's happening. Cheryl says, no, she's going to find out and she'll let us know. And that was the last call from Cheryl. We don't hear anything more from Cheryl. We phoned and phoned and phoned, and she doesn't answer her phone. Next thing, she put her phone off.
Tessa Beetge was sentenced by Brazilian authorities to 7 years and 9 months in prison. On appeal, the sentence was reduced to 6 years and 9 months, but this was still a lifetime for Beetge, who continued to protest her innocence.
First of all, just being arrested was like humiliation. My integrity has been swept through the dirt, my morals, my upbringing, my everything that I had lived for, that my family had raised me. It was like it's been put into a pile of mud. What was supposed to have been only 2 weeks away was like my life has been destroyed.
Tessa's mother, Mari, could not believe the predicament her daughter had found herself in, a convicted drug smuggler locked up in a foreign jail. Since no one was able to give her answers as to how this happened, Mari decided it was time to take matters into her own hands. Determined to find out what happened, she set off for Brazil.
She wanted to go and see Tessa, but we didn't have the money to send her across. So I borrowed money from my niece.
It was during these visits with Tessa in prison that Mari finally began to piece together crucial bits of information about the events leading up to her arrest.
When my mother was visiting, she'd write all the information that she could in her cigarette box. I'd sit there and I'd say to her, okay, this is the address where I was staying, contact numbers and everything. Due to the space issue that's there, she was allowed to take my belongings.
Mari brought all the Tessa's phones back with all the information.
That information is very, very important, because without that, I probably would still be sitting, you know, with no leg to stand on.
Everything had been brought back, including a lucky coat that actually became central to the trial and evidence later.
I was thinking the whole time maybe that her lucky coat could have been like a gift from her husband or something like that, which is special, you know. Wherever I went, I was wearing it. You know, I didn't think that it was going to be a thing, okay, that is the person that you should be looking for.
It was the contents of these revealing text messages and emails between Betrayal, Kwele and Frank Nabalisa that convinced Mari that her daughter had been part of a wider operation. Mari believed that Kwele and Nabalisa had deliberately set Tessa up to be caught with drugs in her possession. After returning from Brazil, Mari went to stay with her sister in the small seaside village of Fishhoek near Cape Town. It's a long way from her own home in Margate, but well beyond Cheryl Kwele's domain of influence. This was where she decided to report the findings of her own investigation at the local police station.
Very smart woman, Mari. From the beginning, she knew what she was doing. She had reported the case to the Fishhoek police as opposed to the police in her own area, because she was concerned about any links to Cheryl Kwele and any possible cover-up.
They were all full of promises. They will let us know what's happening. They will find out, and they'll speak to Cheryl.
When my mother actually gave me the news, you know, she's gone to the police, and at the time she said that she couldn't, the police couldn't find the case.
There was no communication, from what I understood, with any of those police officers if there, A, was an investigation, and B, what the progress was.
She then said that she's going to be taking it to the media, which she did. And when she went to the media, that's when everything started.
We were sitting with over 30 text messages between Cheryl and Tessa. We were sitting with emails, and we were sitting with letters between Tessa and her mum, which had been written since her imprisonment in Brazil. And they all painted a very, very concerning picture, and they clearly painted a relationship between the two women. and that there certainly was something untoward going on. But I have no evidence to actually say what that was and what the agreements were.
I couldn't see Tessa as a drug dealer. I couldn't see her as a drug mule, because I knew Tessa.
I mean, here was a very high-profile situation going on involving drugs, involving possible trafficking, looking like organised crime potentially, involving a director of health for a municipality, one. That on its own would have been scandalous and very concerning. But then you're talking about links to, the head of our crime intelligence in this country. No journalist, no newspaper would be doing its readers any service by ignoring that.
When the story finally broke, it made headline news. The wife of the country's crime intelligence minister was being implicated in an underground drug trafficking ring. The story sent shockwaves throughout the country.
It was massive, as you can imagine. So, it had all the elements of, it almost was, fiction.
Once it was in the Sunday Times, everybody wanted a piece of the pie.
The accusations against Cheryl Cwele were damaging for her husband. Predictably, she denied any wrongdoing. But then the South African police dropped another bombshell. They admitted that they had been investigating Cwele and Frank Nabalisa's activities for quite some time. According to crime intelligence, Nabalisa was a prime drug smuggling suspect operating out of South Africa.
The police don't like a media spotlight shone on them and would probably have been quite happy to continue gathering their information at their own pace and in their own time.
That's when they took all the cell phones and the SIM cards from my wife, and they checked it, and we kept in contact with them continuously.
Megan Power's reporting caused an uproar in South Africa, even attracting international coverage. It seemed inconceivable that the wife of a government minister charged with fighting crime was leading a double life. But another year would pass before any arrests were made.
To be in a foreign prison was scary, because you've got to live with criminals, actual criminals, murderers, thieves, drug addicts.
The hardest part over there was I couldn't pick up the phone and phone her and say, "Hi Tess, how's things?" all that. We were only allowed 2 phone calls a year. That was hard, because we could only talk to her Christmas and on her birthday.
I went through depression and I lost a lot of weight, and that was within the first 3 weeks.
And sometimes we couldn't get through. Sometimes we used to phone about 3-4 days. Then they say that we can phone. We're allowed to phone her, and it's our time to phone, so we phone, and then they say no, they've got a raid on.
I was still having that little bit of hope that, okay, if something happens and they are arrested, maybe then, because they'll be behind bars, I've given them the information on these people, I will be let out, which wasn't the case, because they were in South Africa and I was arrested in Brazil. And the people actually have to be apprehended in Brazil to have my case being dismissed.
Well, sitting over there knowing that they were the ones that actually had my daughter arrested and put into prison in a country that's far away from us, at first I used to have a hate for them. I felt that if I could just put my hands around their necks and strangle them, I'd do that.
The trial against Cheryl Cwele and Frank Nabalisa finally got underway in October 2010 amidst intense media coverage. The prosecution made damning allegations against them. Tessa Beetge was not the only person they recruited under the pretext of a job opportunity overseas. Another woman, Shemaine Moss, testified how Cwele offered her employment in Turkey at the same time that Tessa was hired. She was instantly suspicious and declined the job offer after meeting Frank Nabalisa in Johannesburg. The court also heard that Cwele had 3 different passports. She travelled extensively overseas, seldom staying more than a night in any given place. But frustratingly for the prosecution, their key witness was in a prison in another country.
South Africa wanted the federal to come and bring me to SA to testify in South Africa, but the Brazil government refused that because of the mere circumstances that if I had been flown from Brazil back to SA, landing in SA, the South African government would not have anything against me. So they would have been forced to have set me free.
A set of cryptic text messages sent to Tessa the day before her departure from Lima, Peru, soon shed light on what she had become involved in. These included instructions from Cheryl telling her to photograph herself with the clothes she would be wearing on the day of her departure. Another message requested her to send the tag details of her luggage once she had checked it in. And most suspiciously, she was told not to collect her luggage once she arrived back in Johannesburg.
When Cheryl and Frank got their friends to put the stuff in my bag, I then knew, okay, I can't trust them because this is what they've done to me. They've lied to not only myself, they've lied to my mother, they've lied to my father, they've lied to my children.
She pulled it all over our eyes. She could have done it to anybody. I even said to her jokingly in her office the one day, I said to her there, I hope you've got a job for me too. You know, just like that. She just looked at me and smiled. That was it.
She suffered everything.
Now you know why she was offering so much money. All this paid for and all that paid for.
At the end of a long-running and high-profile trial, in 2012, Cheryl Cwele and Frank Nabalisa were found guilty of drug smuggling and trafficking. They were both sentenced to 20 drug smuggling kingpins had been convicted, and not just their unwitting drug mules.
I could understand if I was guilty knowingly, knowing that I was mischievously getting up to mischief, I would take that responsibility. But why should I be paying the price for somebody else's crime, for somebody else's greed?
It's with her necessarily being arrested and all that. The other prisoners will now come forward maybe and say, you know, they won't have that fear. I know that there are prisoners there that's affected with the traffickers here.
During sentencing, the judge acknowledged Mari Swanepoel's perseverance and her persistent search for truth and justice. It was the crucial and invaluable evidence she bravely collected that helped police secure a conviction. Only a devoted mother would go to these lengths to protect their child.
I'm dealing with Brazil. I've got to get news through to her. Then it's their lawyers and everything else, whatever's going to happen that side. You know, it could take long, it could take a year, it could take 1.5 years, I don't know. So, anyway, I'm glad.
So it must be a relief for you now.
It is. Yeah, I just want my child back.
She worked day and night pushing and trying to find out and trying to find reasons and ways just to get me home. She even tried finding out from the consulate and from immigrations if there was any way of me being able to do my sentence in SA. But there's no ties from Brazil and South Africa.
Look, she had files. I think had 3 leverage files full of paperwork, messages, emails, SMSs, the newspaper cuttings. I bought newspapers from every day when a newspaper came out. I'd buy the newspaper just so that I can see if there's a little piece in about Tessa. And she cut everything out, put them in the file. Now I must admit, she really put everything into trying to get Tessa back.
But all this hard work took a strain on Mari's health. On the 10th of October 2013, 60-year-old Mari Swanepoel was rushed to hospital.
I got word from the consulate that my mom was in hospital, and I couldn't understand because everything had seemed to be fine with my mother. And he then broke the news to me that she passed away due to all the stress and the worries, and her stomach had burst because of all the stress.
Felt very, very sad and terrible because she fought so hard for her daughter and our daughter, and she didn't see her. It was very, very heartbreaking. It hurt me very much because she really did fight.
It was like my heart was ripped out because my mother was everything to me. She was my rock. She was like the glue in my life, just keeping me together, motivating me, always, encouraging me. It's not that much longer. It's not that much longer.
Swanee phoned me about her death in absolute tears, and that was very distressing for everyone involved in the case because all she wanted was to see her child home, and to actually have died so soon before Tessa actually was freed, just left a very bad taste for everyone who was involved in it, and especially because if it wasn't for Mari, none of this would have happened. This would have been swept under the carpet, and this crime syndicate would have got away with it.
On the 26th of March 2014, the Brazilian authorities gave Tessa an early release from prison. This was 5 months after her mother's death.
They reduced it with working remission. If you work and do good behavior and things like that, they can give you time off.
It was a bittersweet return to South Africa for Tessa, where she was able to reunite with her father and children. While in jail, Tessa exchanged letters with a fellow South African in another Sao Paulo prison, and they developed a close relationship. Quite by chance, they were both released on the same day.
On the 26th of March 2014, we were released and we were on our way to the airport. knowing that we were flying back to SA. When the airplane started taking off and it started lifting off Brazilian ground, it was when we first took the opportunity of kissing each other hello. And it was like little butterflies and emotions and happiness and love. It was something very special. When we got to SA, all the family were there to meet us, but the South African police asked, would we like to get a different way out, because there's a lot of media in the front, and we made arrangements for the family to meet us at a little bit more private place.
When I met her at her friend's place, we cried for about 10 minutes and holding each other. And it was nice to have my daughter back after so long.
We got married on the 11th of October. It was the day after, one day after my mom's 1 year of her passing. And I chose that date because I didn't want to remember sad things, and I know that my mother would have wanted happy things and new beginnings, and things that would come of sadness.